Alright, today we're going to be covering what to do when you get to endgame, because some people have told me that it's not very clear once they get to 100 on what the heck to do. Now let's assume you finished questing at this time it would be Eden. You finished your quest line here, you got to 100, you got all the basic gear, and you have no clue what to do. In my example, I'm going to go from no gear, because I did that quest line already on this character. But so you have no gear, and the build you made is messed up. It's full of mistakes. I let my build make by new guildies that they thought was good, so it's completely messed up. I have wrong rubies everywhere. I didn't complete it on purpose because I have too many talents and rubies compared to newer players as well. So let's assume you just got to endgame and you have no clue what to do. The first thing I would recommend, whenever, in whatever time period that is you go to your Astral Academy, be it Empire, Link, doesn't matter, you go to Astral Academy and you go and ask for a new gear box, an armor box. This NPC gives it starters equipment set, and you simply equip everything this box gives. It's basically going to give a full set of the previous layer. So right now we have legendary layer, so it gives an epic set, and it's going to be really shitty gear. It's only 80%, so it's even one tier below tier 1, because there are 3 tiers in gearing. If you are not sure how gearing in this game works, then check the link up there. But there are 3 tiers in this game, and this is below the first tier, so it's very weak. But once you got that gear, it's probably way better than the gear you got from the questing. As a quick side note as well, because a lot of people are saying that combat is very hard with this gear, to give you some tips here. First thing you want to do as well when you get this gear is change the stats. You need to get these insignias to change the stats. For free to play you can buy them from the cash shop boutique. For pay to play you can get them from multiple sources. The main source people get them from is KOE, Kingdom of Elements. You can simply buy them here for some KOE currency. Here's the defensive one and the attack one. I recommend you getting both so you can adjust both offensive and defensive stats. The second source of getting these insignias is from the 3v3 vendor. Defensive one is 700 and the attack one is also 700. And you can also buy the ones from the BG vendor, but those are consumed upon use, so you have to buy a bunch here. The preview ones I've shown are lasting for a full 30 days, unlimited amount of use. So I recommend getting the 30 day ones because they last a really long time. Now you can also get them from Marks of Accomplishments, but I doubt most people have those. You can buy these. They cost only 40. The good thing is that these go in your boutique tab rather than the other ones going in your items tab, and that means you can use them on all your rings as well. You only have to buy them once. If you want them on your rings as well, you have to buy them on those characters separately as well. So once you have those insignias, you can then finally change your stats, and I would recommend putting everything on determination that can have determination. So if you can see the item piece here, they always show the possible stats the items can have. Put everything in determination that can have determination, put everything else on proficiency that can have proficiency, and that'll be all the gear. So you only have proficiency and determination, and that's basically your main base setup for starting to do some stuff. Brutality you'll really only need for longer fights where your damage will start to scale when your target's health reduces, and you're only going to really start seeing that when fights are taking a longer time, like for raiding and harder dungeons, which at this point you probably won't be doing it. So just for now, focus on getting all your stuff set, and that way you should have a much easier way of doing stuff. Make sure you put all the defensive stats you have as well into Bloodlust, that way you'll be healing quite a lot as well from doing damage, which should make it as easy as possible for you to do stuff on your own. We're gonna do a quest here as an example. I want to remind you that I'm playing one of the shittiest classes that there is right now during this time of the game, and I have a broken build that is not sufficient at all for doing anything. It has misplaced rubies, it's using PvP rubies in comparison with other rubies. Some rubies are even not working due to aspect restrictions because we're on DPS aspect. Because I just want to make it as realistic as possible, or as a new player, of course new players should search for the right build. Do not copy this build, search for the right builds of your class, so things will be going even easier than this. but I want to make this video as realistic as possible as a new player and the mistakes they make. Combat is rather easy, so like I said, focus on the stats, make sure you put the stats correctly, and then the rest of the gameplay should be rather easy. Now again, I want to guys remind you, because we did discuss this, that you should make it as easy as possible for a solo player to do all this. It's still an MMO, try to find people to do the stuff together with, it's also more fun that way. You can just AoE everything together as a group and do your quest that way, so find people. But if you want to do everything alone and solo, then it's perfectly possible as well. Then, once you've gotten your free gear from the Astral Academy, the next thing you want to do, because this gear is only going to make it easier for certain things, the next thing you want to do is actually get the tier 1 gear. Starting with tier 1 gear is going to be the base minimum of being able to do anything in this game for you. And gear is pretty important in this game if you wish to do any combat at all. So there's a few ways to do. First and easiest way to do, of course, is ask your guild. Asking your guild for some free tier 1 gear is pretty easy to do, and it should cost you nothing. You might even make friends along with it because it is a conversation starter. You could also ask just in the zone chat, and maybe you'll be lucky to get some. So when you do get some tier 1 gear from other people, you're good to go. Now you might not have a full set from that, so obviously the other ways is to do either Al Rihat every single hour. So how it works in Al Rihat is basically an endgame daily map that you could visit, and there's some dailies that you could be doing there. Al Rihat is a big map divided in night and day time, but that has no influence on anything really, so I'll just mention it. There are 6 quests you can do daily. There are 2 quests you can do daily, and then the 3rd quest from every NPC is simply killing 100 enemies, which is a weekly quest. But doing the tasks of whatever is actually daily. Once you complete the 6 daily tasks, you'll be able to hand in the weekly task as well, which is called doing 6 dailies for this quest, which is going to give you a bonus bag full of equipment, which is going to give you 2 item pieces of tier 1 of your current layer. Usually we save them for the next layer so that we can get a full set of tier 1 already when the next layer opens, and then we have some gear left over for other people as well. And that is where the gear comes in when you ask from the guildies mostly. If not, then you simply have to do Al Rihat dailies and get the stuff here. As you are in Al Rihat questing, or you could just visit every hour, every single hour 2 chests will spawn, PvP chests, and those will give gear as well, tier 1 gear, tradable, and it's always going to be 90%, 90% offensive, defensive. So I highly recommend going here every hour if you can, and simply check where the chests are and try and see if you can get there. Do the dailies as well, because dailies are going to give you currency in Al Rihat that you will need on endgame, especially to catch up. Because in the beginning you won't be able to buy these yet, these spark scrolls, because you need to respect it, and you get reputation over time by just doing the dailies. But as soon as you don't have it yet, I would recommend stacking up on Eden Fruit for your profession, or getting the Matter Transmitters, which is basically extra rerolls for your Battlegrounds rewards, which are very helpful if you want to. Specify to get Battleground emblems. Now once you get to Trusted Reputation, I recommend getting triple replicators, because they give 3 times as much than the Astral replicators, which only give double. And you should use these to open the Insignia boxes that you get from these PvP chests. Because when you get an Insignia box of 109% and you right click it, you only get 1 Insignia. If you use a replicator and then you open the box, you're going to get 3 Insignias per box. So that's going to triple amplify your gearing speed by a lot. Once you get to respect it, I would definitely recommend getting Spark Scrolls, so you can get bonus Spark that you will get every week by doing these 2 week dailies and all these weeklies. So Spark is something that you do basically on a weekly basis, so it's not something you have to grind every day. But I highly recommend getting the Spark Scrolls before trying to complete all these things, because once you've got the Spark XP, you won't be able to get it again until the next week, and the Spark bonus really helps. So that's on Al Rihat. After Al Rihat, there's still one more way to get gear, and that is simply sector dungeons. So you can do Control M, go to your dungeons, and you'll have your most recent layer unlocked. For me, that is now Legendary Layer 4. Simply press join or go. If you press go, you'll be instantly sent to the allot, and you're on your own, and you have to get mercenaries, or you make a pre-made party and you press go, of course. You can also press join, that way you'll be put in a queue system of maximum 5 minutes, and when enough people have signed up with you, the game instantly throws you guys together in the dungeon. If nobody joins, then you simply go in alone, but mercenaries will be for free. That is basically from the dungeons, because this is going to drop a lot of tier 1 gear, so that's going to be your main income of getting gear on your own. Then there's one more way to get gear, but that is mostly for people that already build up currency, so as a returning player you probably have more chance of that. You can either gear up from the Astral Academy if you did a lot of ship content. You can buy the gear boxes for nuggets. As you can see here, you can always buy the latest layer and buy the gear from here. And this also exists for battleground emblems, so you can also do that. If you just like PvP, you can just go into PvP, hope you get some wins from there, and then use those battleground emblems to simply buy the boxes as well from PvP currency, because basically gear drops from the boxes, and bosses in Sector 4 drop them a lot. If you want to speed up gearing, then use replicators as well, but you're not going to get replicators on pay-to-play server if you use replicators when you kill bosses. You only get replicators when you don't use replicators. This is the one for the battleground, so simply loot. Armor can be bought here. And that's basically how you get tier 1 gear. Now, doing the dungeons is pretty hard with only this gear, so I recommend getting some already from our Rihat, asking around, and then gradually the dungeons become easier. Now if you insist on really playing only alone, there's still another way you can gear, and that is distortions. Distortions is below the astral dungeons. These are basically small scale dungeons that is made for 1 player, up to 3 players, but they scale according to the amount of people there are. So if you only go in alone, then they scale to only 1 player. And as you can see, it also drops gear, so you might do this as well. It does drop in lower quantities, so the drop rate of getting gear is lower than doing astral gear, actual dungeons, because I believe the game wants you to play with other people. But it's perfectly possible as well to do it alone by doing distortions. Now, distortions is really boring for me. I never go there. But you get these useful insignias from as well, and get some gear, and you get basically all the goodies for doing this solo. So I believe this is made for these people that want to play solo, or really are fine with a slow start. So distortions are a thing. Simply press go. There's no join button for that, and you go clear those things. You can do infinite amount of them. Go as crazy as you like. Once we have gotten some gear from the certain content that we showed before in the video, you'll see that things are going to go relatively easier to do. You'll be able to kill things faster, you'll be able to last longer in fights, and so on and forth. You'll see that once you have a full set of tier 1 gear, which you can distinguish by the number, by this special number 1 here, you'll see that as well. That is basically your tier 1 gear. There are 2 more tiers gonna come that we're gonna touch on later on in the video. I want to quickly specify here on Vigor. Vigor is a number that is your base damage. So we explained already about stats, that you have to set them proficiency determination as your baseline to go with, and toughness so you can heal from the damage you deal. But Vigor is your main damage, and Vigor comes from your armor that is linked to the level of the equipment you have. As you can see, the epic gear we got from the box is level 129. The tier 1 gear from legendary is 131. If you look at the shirt we got from the box, that is 2 levels below us, that gave us 1105 Vigor. The one we have now equipped, that is only tier 1, is 1347 Vigor. So that's a difference of 200 and almost 50 Vigor on that item piece alone. Vigor is going to increase your damage and healing dealt by a ton. Vigor is the main leading factor in this game when it comes to damage and healing. Stamina on its turn does that for tanking and having more health, which comes automatically. Every gear P has Vigor and Stamina, but these are the main stats. You always pick the gear with the highest item level, not equipment level, item level. Equipment level is only basically your gear score, and the only reason you have gear score is to simply upgrade your mace. That is the only reason there is gear score in this game. But other than that, the item level is the main leading factor on telling you which item has more vigor than the other. So focus on vigor first, stats second. Make sure you raise vigor. Knowing this now, we'll be able to focus on the next thing. As you have probably gotten your tier 1 gear by now, or you will soonish, you start to wonder, what else can I do to improve my armor? Well, there are a few more things. There are Draconic aspects, which is a second layer of gear that you can do, but it's going to be much easier to get these, or more streamlined and simpler than normal gear tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Draconic relics are divided in different types that you can get depending on which layer there you are in. Every second layer a new type of Draconic relics is released into the game, and those are the hardest to get. Those are only from the 3v3 vendor, which you can find here, and you can buy here Draconic relics. These are the strongest at this point, and you can also drop them from the Niha Citadel raid, which is the endgame raid we have right now. There's always the possibility of getting the previous layer Draconic relics, which is way easier to get these from, and that is from the battleground emblems, simply Draconic relics, and they cost only 1250 BG emblems each, and they only give 10 vigor less. So the difference between how easy you can get a certain relic between the two compared to the power they both offer to the previous layer ones are definitely the way to go. If you really want to min-max when you are at the point of min-maxing, then by all means go for the best ones, but these surely do the job done as well. The only difference is 10 vigor a piece, so the gain you get for buying these is way bigger than the ones you would buy otherwise. You can also spend Realgar for the best relics, but I would not recommend doing that. We'll get to Realgar in a second. So Draconic relics, I would recommend getting the previous layer ones from the battleground emblems. If you're short on battleground emblems, you can also buy them from Suslanger. If you like to do Storm, you'll probably have currency to do that. The Storm NPC can be found here. This is basically the gathering place of doing Storm. This Djinn sells you the Draconic relics of the previous layer as well, and they cost only 10 Storm Essence each. I say only because you get about 2 or 1 each, and you get another 3 for the weekly quest here. So it's rather easy to do this. If you spam Storm every 2 hours, you can get this relatively fast, and there's not much other stuff to spend this on rather than vanity costumes in the main city. So I would recommend really combining all the sources you have and get a full set of Draconic relics. At this time it is White Rose. This will change, so if you're looking at this video at a later stage, this is simply the same thing with a different name. Then the next place you can get more relics from the previous season is from Irene. Irene has a special NPC here in the castle called Wayfarer, and this guy also sells Draconic relics. So if you're someone that does Irene often, buy a ton, you can then buy these relics here as well and complete your set from Iku. Now this is quite expensive in my opinion, in how fast you can get this currency and how much each of this piece costs. I think Storm is still faster to gather than this Iku, because Iku is more bound to a weekly and daily income, whereas Storm you can simply do every single 2 hours, and Battlegrounds can be done as well every time with Battlegrounds or every day with the Trial of Blood, which also gives Battleground emblems. But just so you know that the option is here, Irene also offers Draconic relics, and I think that's all of the sources of Draconic relics. I might have forgotten 1 or 2, but that's already 3 sources to begin with. So you should be getting them relatively fast. Your main income of Draconic relics will be from Battlegrounds anyway, Battleground emblems I mean, and by that probably Trial of Blood, because you can do that every single day. You get the currency at the end of the day, which is midnight for me, and then you just simply repeat that over and over, and you should get 1 relic every 2 days from that already. Now that we have covered artifacts and tier 1 gear, the next thing you'll probably be wondering about, that you probably have seen already in game, is artifacts. Artifacts are another kind of bonuses you can have to your character. and artifacts are divided in certain things. I went into really deep detail in this other video that you can click on the card above. I'll just go over the basics here in this video. So artifacts are basically divided into 3 different types. You have your main artifact, this is the God's Legacy. This is the one you can craft on the anvil, which I show right here. And you can upgrade it with the gift of the trees, which you get by simply doing weekly stuff. If you go guild keeper with your guild, if you do dailies in KoE, you do dailies in Rihat, you do the weekly storm quest, you're going to drown in this currency. They give way too much than what you need because you are bottlenecked to get only 5 a week, but you're getting way more currency than you need. But these ones are used to upgrade your God's Legacy, so you need only 1 up to level 10 God's Legacy. Once you get to level 11, you will need 2 of these for each level up, and so on and forth. So that is your first God's Legacy, that's your first artifact, that's your main artifact. This one will remain with you for the rest of the big season, for every single layer. Then you have 2 more types. You have the PvE artifacts and you have PvP artifacts. The difference is that PvP artifacts only work in PvP instances. Recently also KoE and LCTAP and Rihat, so basically anywhere where PvP is possible, or the big PvP areas. And then you have PvE artifacts which only work in PvE instances, such as Mausoleum of Sparks, compasses, raids, dungeons, and so on and forth. You also have 3 different tiers of artifacts, so you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 for both except for God's Legacy, the crafted one. The tier 1 PvE artifacts you can get from simply dropping in dungeons. You can buy them from the Suslanger Storm NPC as well. The tier 2 PvE artifacts are only dropped in Observatory. There's no other way to get tier 2 artifacts, so only Observatory raids. And then the tier 3 PvE artifacts drop only in Naiha Citadel, no other way. Then for PvP artifacts, tier 1 only available from the Battlegrounds emblem. Tier 2 only available from the 3v3 6v6 vendor, but you need 1200 rating to get these, as you can see. Now there's going to be an upcoming update. I believe it's coming with 30.1, which I believe we're gonna get about around 17 November 2022, and that's going to lower the required rating to buy this to 750, as I saw the Russian patch notes say so. And then the tier 3 PvP artifacts are for Realgar from this NPC. And that brings us to the next topic, which is Realgar. Realgar is a big thing for pay-to-play players because Realgar is the only way to get some really nice bonuses for attractive power-wise. First off, you have Draconic aspects. Like I said, you can buy this for Realgar. I would not recommend doing that. There's much better ways to spend your Realgar, such as special scrolls. These are basically the cash up items you find on free-to-play, but in higher quantities as well. Limited quantity on pay-to-play only, so that means that there's not too much gap between stronger and new players, but there is a gap, but you can easily close that with the Realgar. So joining a good guild that has a high ranking on the Dominion leaderboards is a very good thing to do, because that increases your Realgar gain per week. These give extra rubies, they give extra stats, and they give extra talent points. I recommend doing these for Realgar first, because those are basically permanent boosts to your character that you should be getting. While we're touching on rubies here real quick, I'm going to show you guys that you can buy one from the Battlegrounds emblem as well, Battlegrounds gift. Make sure you get this one as well, because this is an important ruby that you might miss or look over. Once you've gotten your special scrolls from Realgar, I would recommend after that going for the Dragonic amulets and make sure to get the Hungry Form for the most DPS players. If you're a healer, then make sure you get the Memory of Light. If you are rich, then you simply get both, because these are game changers in doing your numbers. These are basically relics that go in your trinket slot. These are the best ones you can get for pay to play. Once you've gotten all that, I then recommend you getting only your Realgar on the PvP artifacts. You'll be only able to keep up 1 artifact a month, because these expire after 30 days, so it's your choice whether you want to do that or not. Whether you think it's worth it for the amount of PvP you're going to be getting or not, it's up to you. but I'm not sure what else to spend Realgar on, so that's my point here for you. For DPS players, I really recommend Kanan's Killing Arrow, because that thing is making you a monster for every kill you make. So basically every kill you make is gonna make you even stronger, and it's disgustingly easy to do that. But that is really for Realgar, there's not much else about this. Alright, once we have, so you know already how gearing works. You get your tier 1 gear, you get your Draconic Relics, you got your artifacts figured out, you know about what to do with your Realgar now. What is next? You might wonder, what should I do? What do I need to start me getting into some real content? Compass dungeons, mostly Spark with good groups, going raiding perhaps, nice Citadel. I want to do big numbers, want to get on the DPS board and so on. The obvious step would be tier 2 gear. Tier 2 and tier 3 is the necessary gear you're gonna need to get. Tier 2 gear is pretty easy to get as well, everything is pretty streamlined. Tier 2 gear has to be crafted, there's no other way to get this. You need to go to the anvil, you filter for equipment or weapons, whatever that is, and you'll see that you need certain materials. Now gold is something that's pretty obvious to get, you know how that works, so I don't need to explain you that. The enchanted material might be something new for you. Enchanted material is an item that you will be getting for burning your keys in Astral. So everyone on endgame, if you haven't noticed yet, you get Astral keys. You get about 14 every single day, and they stack up to 196. That's about 2 weeks of not playing, I believe. But when you go to Astral and you do not have your helping hand on, you'll be spending your keys. If you have it on, you won't be spending keys. Don't worry about it too much, simply have it off for now. You only really need it when you know when you need it. So whenever you kill bosses or you open these equipment boxes at the beginning where you were getting tier 1 loot from, you're going to be spending Astral keys, and those Astral keys will then convert into materials that go in your bag. So these are materials, enchanted shards, and you'll be able to rework these with tools. Now tools is something that you can also craft with your profession, with simply tools. These ones that you can craft, you right click them and you'll see that these are glowing up. You can also use the minion tools from the Realgar, which I recommend doing, and you can also get cheap out very much and simply buy the green tools and use it that way. But you'll be gearing much slower than the rest of the server, unless everybody does it collectively. Then there's no difference and the whole server can play cheaper, but that's up to the server. Once you convert all the tools, once you convert all the enchanted shards with tools, you'll be getting these enchanted materials, and these are the ones you need to craft armor. So basically, as you remember from the beginning of the system, tier 2 gear is progression locked, so no one can really start crafting a lot of tier 2 on day 1 when a new layer unlocks. Everybody gets the same amount of Astral keys at the beginning, and everybody keeps getting the same amount of Astral keys. So everyone progresses at the same speed of tier 2. The only difference there can be is depending what tools that player is using. Depending what tools that you're using, you're getting either 32, 48 or 64 units of enchanted material. I have a full guide on this on my website that I will link in the description if you want to go over this slower, if I might be explaining too fast in the video, but that is the essential concept of how this works. Then the last ingredient is simply the work pieces. There's 4 different work pieces. There's the cloth one, there is the jewelry one, there's the leather, there's the plate, and there's the weapon. There's 5 work pieces. There's 5 different work pieces. Weapons, you will mostly always need 2 for the 2-handed and the wand. For a 1-handed and a shield, you will need only 1 work piece. For all the other armor pieces, you only need 1 work piece. You will have to craft these work pieces with your professions, and these are also tradable, so you can buy them from other people or you can sell them if you're the crafter. I made a profession guide completely from scratch, so if you're not sure how that works, the cards link is in the top, and you can check out there how you should level your profession and what you can do with it. And that is basically it. That is how you craft tier 2 gear. It's progression locked, so everybody can progress at the same speed depending on what tool you use, but they increase your vigor by a lot more than tier 1 gear, so tier 2 is much recommended. Then the next tier we're going to be talking about is tier 3. Now tier 3 is the last tier in this game and is the strongest there is, but it has a but side on it. It is not able to change its stats. So the stats you get on that tier 3 when you get it, those are permanent for the rest of the item speed's lifetime. Basically until you toss it out. Tier 3 can be gained from two different sources. You either get them from the Naiha Citadel raid, which is simply by doing raids. For now, only 2 items drop per boss, and it's decided which boss will drop which item, but the stats that you will get on them is still random. On this picture you will be seeing basically the rules of tier 3, so the stats are pretty much guaranteed for the item piece and the boss you kill, but there's still a random factor in there of which of the 2, 3, 4 stats you'll be getting on that item piece. Any future updates, I believe 13.1 or later, there's going to be a change to Naiha Citadel where the bosses will no longer there will be a change to Naiha Citadel where the bosses will no longer There will be a change in Naiha Citadel where the bosses will no longer drop 2 items per kill. Instead, they will grant currency to everybody that participates in the raid. That way, no one will have to feel bad for not getting anything for raiding, and everybody will be able to get tier 3 by simply buying it with the currency they get from the bosses. The other way of getting tier 3 items is from Melting Isle. Melting Isle has been added beginning of 13.0, and you can buy tier 3 gear from this vendor here. You can either buy random pieces for 10 currency, or you can buy a specific item piece for 15 currency. What would you make by random or a specific item? Well, as you just saw in the screenshot, certain pieces have certain stats. So if you want to avoid a certain stat, you might not want to get a random. I personally recommend never getting accessories. Leave accessories on tier 2 and focus on the other items getting tier 3. That way you'll be avoiding swiftness altogether, and luck is random anyway. Tier 3 has an insane amount of vigor compared to tier 1, has a lot more than tier 2. Tier 3 is simply the best gear you can get. So considering you cannot change your stats, the vigor gain you get from it is still worth it. Even if you get shitty stats that you wouldn't like, unless it's swiftness, then it's a then you need to go into the math machine and see if it's really worth it or not. But if you get anything else but swiftness, it's usually always worth the wear. The next thing I want to touch upon, what you can still do to increase your character's power, is these numbers. You see these 112, 115, 115. That's an add-on showing what the actual percentage is, but as you can see on the item piece at the bottom, it shows the 115%. Now usually gear when it drops, it's either 115, 105, 90 and so on and forth. But once you craft your gear, it is stuck at 90. There's no way to get it up unless you use insignias. Insignias are items you get that you can get from either Rihat, which drops up to 109%. You can craft higher ones on the anvil, but this is really expensive. I wouldn't recommend doing that, because that's the only place where you can use amalgam. But the gold amount it requires is very expensive, and you get only 1. But that way you can get higher ones than 109, because 109 is the highest you can get from Rihat, which is a very easy source of getting these. So you can craft 112%, 115%, which is the highest there is. And you can also do compass dungeons that will drop them for the party and you guys roll them among the group. The higher level you go, the higher the insignia percentage you will get. And for every 5 levels, the percentage will go up. So every 5 levels 103, next 5 levels 106, next 5 levels 109. And within those 5 levels, the quantity that will be dropped each allot will increase. Simply use those insignias on your gear and they will increase the amount of stats that you get from these gears. Basically, a 115% item piece is equal to the next layer in amount of stats that you get from this. So this 115 earring piece gives me as much determination as a fabled earring. The tiers of item pieces do not influence the amount of stats you get. As you can see here, I get 138 determination with 115. This tier 3 cape 115 is also giving me 138 with supremacy. So the amount of stats is the same. It's simply the insignias that is increasing the amount up to 115%, which is as good as the next layer amount of stats that you get. That way you can squeeze out the amount of stats you get in your base or in your special stats and increase your power that way as well. So you either craft them on the anvil, you get them from Rihat, and you do compass dungeons for them. There is a second type of insignias in the game that is called chest with insignia, and when you open these, you'll be getting these dragon insignias. Dragon insignias are the ones you use to increase the draconic aspects, and you can only use 10 of them in one item piece. They simply basically increase 1 vigor per insignia you use, up to 10 per item piece. You can get these only from the guild keeper, so when you go raids, small squad, stronghold, your guild keeper will drop these. The low difficulty, the medium difficulty, and the high difficulty. They all drop the same amount. Again, it's a chest, so I recommend using replicators as you saw me use it right before opening, otherwise you will get only 1. Use a double replicator, you get 2, triple replicator, you get 3, and a experimental replicator, you get 4. This goes the same way for the insignia boxes you can get from Rihat, compass dungeons, but not for crafting. That is why crafting is not recommended on the insignias. And with that said, I think we've covered everything you can do to increase your character's power in this game. Along with that, some new content probably came along the way for you that you have no idea what to do or what that is, so that's something new you can do. And you will see whatever you will be able to do in the game with all this new power. Raiding will become easier, doing dungeons will become easier, everything should be more accessible for you. You'll die less, so you're gonna start enjoying the game more. Sometimes it gets hard, sometimes it's not fun. You get through it. In any MMO, it's not always as easy as it is. It's still a journey, and you still have to enjoy it. If you have any questions about the game, if anything else that is not clear, check my website, check dragalods.com. If you still don't know what to do, simply DM me on Discord, Dragagon #1985, or simply comment on the video. See you guys next time. Have a good day. Bye bye.